What's going on, everybody? This is Donovan here. I just wanted to make a quick video kind of covering We Live Wholesaling Elite Live 19, day number one. Um, kind of what the subject matter was, some of the notes that I took, the gold nuggets that I had gathered from today's speakers. I'm just chilling in my hotel room right now. It's probably about 11:30. No, not 11:30. 10:40, 11 o'clock Dallas time. Um, so the first person we saw today, of course, was Max. Had a grand entrance, fantastic. Came out full boxing attire, supreme boxing attire. Had Ish doing the Bandit Sign song, which I can link to in the video. But today, what I wanted to talk about this evening with you guys, I wanted to talk about the nuggets that I gathered from Wholesaling Elite Live 19 in Dallas, Texas. Um, a couple nuggets I gathered from Scott Oots. Talked about execution, and he talked about that if you don't execute your plans or you don't execute more or less what you're talking about, then nothing else matters, right? If you plan a lot and you know a lot and you have the knowledge and all these things, but you don't execute, it doesn't really matter. And going off of that, the other key takeaway was to not overthink things, right? Don't overthink it. Because sometimes, that can be your worst enemy is getting, in your head and you overthink things and that just holds you back. And that's, you putting up a roadblock to yourself, right? Um, Another thing he mentioned was spending time on RGA. Now, what that stands for is revenue generating activities. So instead of, coming home, if you have, excuse me, a 9 to 5 job like I do, you come home, um, you're tired at the end of the day, of course. You don't want to make calls, you don't want to follow up. It's tempting to just turn on Netflix, right? Or just watch YouTube videos, or, just eat chips, right? And be lazy on the couch, whatever, your vice is or whatever, however you relax, right? After a long day at work. So, whatever that may be, that's not a revenue generating activity, right? Watching Netflix, that's not making you money. These kinds of things, going out, drinking at bars, going out on the weekends, not just your days that you work, but your days off, how you spend your free time, basically. Um, and he was saying mostly, focus on revenue generating activities. If you've got free time, you know, do it, do the things you need to do. That's a key thing that I found a lot of the speakers today kind of touched on in their own way. Gary Vee was mentioning, which was fantastic. Gary Vee at the conference, live, in person. Man, that guy is fucking awesome. It's one thing to, see his content, it's another thing to consume it, right? And, just see him as this figure on the internet. But it's totally different. It's a totally different thing seeing him in person. A phenomenal guy. Exactly what you see on the internet, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, the podcasts. It's the same Gary that you hear on there. It's the same Gary in real life. What you see, what you hear on there, that's what you get in real life. He's genuine as fuck. But going off what I said is revenue generating activities, right? With Scott Oots. So he brought it up early on, and Gary Vee, kind of mentioned it, in his own way that we all have time, right? We all got the same 24 hours a day. You have time. There's no excuse for, I didn't do this or I couldn't get to that because I didn't have enough time. The reality is we all have the same 24 hours. What you do with it, that's up to you ultimately. You can spend them however you want, of course, but if you complaining about money. You should probably do something that's going to generate revenue. Um, Trevor Mock from On Carrot, he discussed it a little bit too, as far as revenue generating activities, in the sense that when it comes to your business and making money, that again, you have the same 24 hours, and it's up to you on how you're going to spend them, what you're going to do with them. And his approach went into the more personal side of an entrepreneur, not just real estate, but very individual, personalized um, account of how to hold yourself accountable and how to track goals and your progress towards certain things in life. A bucket list, your life list, that thing like that, and just kind of recalibrating your mindset, and which Max talked about as well in the beginning, and just getting on board with yourself, kind of focusing your life and kind of narrowing in on like what's important to you and just focusing on that and tackling that, and just cutting out all the noise, right? So revenue generating activities, focus on those. Don't overthink it, and execute, because if you don't execute and you don't take action, then you know nothing else really matters. Doesn't matter how much you know. If you're not taking action, you're not implementing certain steps, the things that you should be doing, right? Then honestly, it's not going to work for you. Um, he did mention that using a watermark on his property pictures for uh, email and text blasting to cash buyers is something that he started doing after he realized other wholesalers were kind of coming out of the woodwork, stealing his deals or kind of marketing his deals that he had as their own and trying to cut them in that way. I think that's what's considered daisy chaining in the real estate wholesaling field. I think that's, if correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what a daisy chain is referred to. Sometimes you see it in the groups, in the Facebook groups. Um, so yeah, he uses an app, I guess, called Visual Watermark, that kind of takes care of that from happening. Where on the picture there'll be a like logo of the company, um, put over like the main image. That way, if someone tries to take the picture, they can't doctor it, they can't edit it, can't take it out of the picture. It's just kind of there, and it you know keeps it locked up. It gives them credibility and helps from other people kind of stealing pictures and stuff like that, working deals that aren't theirs. Another big thing, another huge key takeaway, a lot of people talked about, was setting yourself apart. And what that comes down to is you know doing what you need to do with the sellers to literally set yourself apart in your market, right? That's not going to be the same thing for everybody, but what Scott mentioned in his presentation was, you know, if they need help moving, right? You're going to assist them to move. If they're moving into a new place, you know, boom, pay that down payment or their first month's rent, off for those things. Um, yeah, covering the moving costs, like I said. Take them to, if they got doctor's appointments, maybe they're elderly and they have doctor's appointments to go to. Offer to take them to their doctor's appointments. Maybe they don't have family that really interact with them or talk to them much. You know, go have coffee with them, take them out to lunch, hang out with them. Um, you know, maybe they don't have a lot of money and they're going through some financial hardships, which is very likely. And they can't even afford maybe groceries or something. You gotta listen for these things, right? Um, you know, buy them some groceries. Maybe they don't have gas in their car and they need to get to work, right? You know, offer to give them gas, give them a gift card for the gas station so they can get gas in their car. These things, right? Little things that are gonna set you apart from all the other wholesalers and other investors in your area. Um, the other thing is recognizing that we are the experts, right? When it comes to these transactions, whether we think we are or we like really know what we're doing or not is only part of the equation. But the big thing is that we are the experts here, and they're seeking our advice. They're seeking our you know our guidance, if you will. As the service that we provide, we are the experts in this transaction. And it's these leads and these sellers that we got to see them as family. If we see them and treat them as if they're family, then they're more willing to warm up to us, open up to us, be comfortable, tell us their backstory, tell us the real, genuine reason why they're selling or what the hardship is that they're going through that they need to get out of the situation, um, and really dive deep into what's going on in their life. Um, so leads are family, and we're the experts providing like a consultation service, right? And that's it. Are we always the right fit for them? Not always, and that's okay. We're here to educate and provide a service for those that want that service. If they don't want that service, that's totally fine. We just offer them, you know, what we do and educate them while we're there. If we ultimately get a contract, that's fantastic. And worst case scenario, you, you know, educated a homeowner on the value of their property and the options they have to sell it right now. So, there's that. That's not, such a big deal. Like what's the worst that could happen right there? Educate them, let them know what their options are. Even if they're not going to sell with you right now, you know, maybe they'll remember you and come back to you because you provided the service, you provided that genuine warmth of just lending an ear and being a friend, treating them like family, right? As if you're really trying to help them through their situation and not make money off them, right? Because if you just help them through that, the money will come, right? The money will come, but the money is not the object, right? It's the seller, right? The seller is the object of the conversation. That is the topic, not the money, not the price point. Next thing is something that I kind of realized that came up a few times, but not that much. And again, it comes down to marketing and how much time and money you have to market, especially in like whatever, um, however your market is at the moment. And of course, all the marketing tactics that exist work in every market. It's just a matter of what you want to implement and what is bringing a good return on investment for you. One of the things that I kind of like thought about during Scott's talk was setting yourself apart in the sense that door knocking, I don't think, is done as often or as much as it could be done. And I think it's a lot to do with this. It has that initial fear and that anxiety of like going to a stranger's house and just, knocking on the door. Hey, Mr. Mrs. Seller, my name's Donovan. I was in the area, and I'm a real estate investor, and I was just curious if you'd be interested in an offer on your property here. Some simple, right? Or you can be super complex, like you know I forget, Mike, who gave a talk on like seller acquisitions type things, on appointments, where you could just kind of be over the top or just throw them for a loop, right? Throw the seller off for a loop, or that homeowner where you show up and you know you just have a genuine conversation with them, and it could be something as random as like knock on the door, you know hey, I'm looking for the homeowner, you know oh, you know this is that's so and so, or oh yeah, that's me, like how, like what can I do, how can I help you? Oh, shit, I'm just looking to buy a house in the area, but I don't really know if this is really that great of a neighborhood. You know, There's a house down the street. Thing's got rat infestations, like attic has got rats. I mean, it's just a problem, And I mean, is this? I mean, you don't have rats, do you? Right? I mean, that's really weird and random, but it gets people talking, right? And then they'll tell you about their house. You're not asking if they want an offer. You're not even asking if they want to sell. You're just kind of stating who you are, what you're doing there, and just getting them to talk about their neighborhood, right? And maybe they'll divulge some extra stuff, and then from there you can just dig further. But, anyways, door knocking, primarily when driving for dollars, of course, would be the real big whammy, right? The double whammy, driving for dollars mixed with door knocking. I mean, shit. Think about the return on investment with door knocking. I mean, how much does it cost you to walk up a couple steps, knock on the door? Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you interested? Or, hey, this house down the street has rats. Yours doesn't have rats, does it? Whatever that is, whatever that conversation is you've got with them. I mean, that's free 99, you know what I'm saying? That's free 99, literally. I mean, shit, any money you make off that, that's pure profit right there, man. I mean, it is. So the last thing I took away from Scott was to uh, essentially just pass out your cards, pass out business cards, market basically in a sense of just the term overall. Uh, and, if someone finds a property for you, and they're out driving for dollars for you, whatever it may be, sending you leads that way, you just tell them, hey, send me a lead, send me a property that fits this criteria, and, I'll pay you a referral fee for sending me that property my way, if and when we close. Nice, way to get a couple drivers for you, or, Uber drivers if you Uber, a couple friends or family members that Uber, like, fantastic thing. Offer them a couple $100 on the side, whatever referral fee you feel that is fit. So that's kind of what I grabbed from Scott. And sorry if I'm a little bit tired and a little drowsy. We had the first day session, man. It was shit about 8:30 a.m. when we started. Registration was about 7:30, and we went all the way up until right before 7 p.m. So I mean, we're talking good 11 hours straight, just content, just learning real estate knowledge, golden nuggets, diving deep into things. So I'm a little out of it, like I said. So I apologize if I seem a little drowsy or a little slow. Just bear with me. Steve was the next guy that I listened to on day one. Steve Trang, and he had a really fantastic talk about seller appointments, how to run the perfect seller appointment, in dealing with any kind of like struggles that you get with questions and concerns that may rise from being on those appointments. That was phenomenal. Uh, you talked about qualifying the leads. How much you're looking to get, how soon are you looking to move. Questions, asking questions was his big takeaway. Ask a lot of questions. It's the other thing that Mike talked about. If a seller asks you something that you can't answer, you don't know, you got two approaches. Either one, tell them the truth, tell them you don't know, or you could literally just uh, answer their question with another question to get them off that subject, right? Because if you don't know, instead of saying you don't know, you can either say, I don't know, I can get back to you on that, or essentially ask them a question in return. Um, really is dependent on the situation. Read the seller's body language, read, you know, their energy that they're giving off. If they're very high strung, maybe asking them a question back to their question isn't necessarily the best thing. You know, because another thing he went off of was, if you kind of back off from that kind of aggressive sales approach, and you start pulling back and saying, well, I may not be the right buyer for you. This may not be something that's going to work out for me. I might not just be your guy. And if I'm not, that's okay. I have a couple other appointments to go on today, and you know, I'm looking for two houses. And if this one happens not to be one of the two I'm going to buy, then the next month or so, that's totally fine. No harm, no foul. Once you do that, then right, it starts reeling that seller back in. They keep coming back in, right? So that's kind of the goal with that. So qualify. How much are you looking to get? How much money like do you want for the property? Um, how soon are you looking to sell? How soon are you looking to move? Where are you going to move? Just asking questions, right? Keeping it going, keep the conversation going, keep them talking. There's like the 70-30 rule. I believe it was Steve that talked about it. Yep. I believe it was Steve. Yeah. Yeah, it was Steve. The 70-30 rule, where essentially you want the seller to be talking 70% of the time, you're only talking 30%. So make it about them. When it comes to making an offer, give everything away. Essentially, when you're giving them an offer or you make an offer, you want to basically get around the number. Like, you don't want to say the number, right? You don't want to say the number first. You don't want to you just don't want to say the number first and then have to backtrack, right? Because now you set the bar. You essentially want the seller to set that bar for you. And if they don't know, then you just come back out with the truth and you say, investors are looking at, investors are typically buying at this price point. Retail buyers are typically buying at this price point. So, for me as an investor, this is where I need to be. Is that, how does that sound for you? If I could close, if if I give you what you're asking for, or if I gave you X, what would you do? How does that sound? Like, how does that sound? Sound like that. And then there's the close, right? Where, typically there's a hard soft, hard close, soft close. Like, here's my offer, take it or leave it. You got 24 hours, otherwise it's null and void, right? It expires. So you got 24 hours, figure it out, let me know. If not, I'll move on. Whatever. So that's like the hard close. Soft close is, just kind of being soft and beat around the bush. Like, well, I could offer you this. And then they kind of come back and be like, well, this is my number. And they throw out a number. Now you're kind of like playing a volley at this point. And essentially they start controlling the conversation. So you don't want to be a hard close. You don't want to do a soft close. Because then if you do a soft close like that, then they'll be like, yeah, well, let me think about it. Or I got to talk it over. Or, I need some time. Whatever. Right? Soft close leads to that. Hard close just gets people to close right up. So his thing was, the better way is to disqualify. Like one of the keys that would disqualify the seller, uncover the true motivations, right? Uncover the true reasoning behind why they're wanting to sell, and then confirm with them those things that they mention. It seems like this, right? It sounds like that. I feel like, X, right? I feel that you, whatever, And then when you go on the appointment, one of the first things he says talk about is the ATON method, the ATON approach, which is appreciate, typically, obviously, naturally, and then as a tie-in at the end is the biggest fear, right? So, appreciate is I appreciate you inviting me out to your property today. Typically, this is what homeowners want to know. They want to know how our process works, what the timeline is, how they're going to get their money. Obviously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then naturally, this is the process of how it's going to work, right? And then and that whole line of just pre-qualification, more or less, is what that is. And you say, my biggest fear is that at the end of this, we're not going to sign a contract or we're not going to come to an agreement, to make this happen. And if I tell you I'm not a buyer, are you okay with that? Are you okay telling me, and then essentially getting them to say yes, right? You want them to get on this yes habit, you get them to say yes, 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 yes throughout your whole appointment. And as you're building rapport, you get them to say yes. And then towards the end, they're going to wonder what the hell you're still doing there. They're going to be like, okay, what's next? Like, what do we sign? Like, what do I have to sign? And you're like, oh, yeah, the contract. Yeah, let me you sign right here and you sign right here. Other big thing, no assuming is allowed. Do not assume anything. Every appointment, never assume anything. Never assume the seller knows who you are, what you do, how you do it. When you struggle with the seller, it actually helps you build rapport. So when you say things like, they ask you, how long have you been in business? Or, tell them the truth. You can be like, hey, I'm brand new. To be honest, I haven't been in business very long. So I might have to get back to you on that question to answer it for you, accurately. But, let me find out for you. They'll be more willing to work with you, essentially, is what he was getting at. Being humble, being honest, truthful, right? People be more willing to open up and they'll let their guard down to help you, right? Get what you want, and then they'll get what they want, and then it's just a win-win. The other thing is being a consultant. I don't even know what I wrote here. I'm sorry. I'm going over my notes real quick. It's just some of it's chicken scratch, man. I can't even read some of it. But being a consultant, in the sense of, say they tell you some things like, how long have you been in the business? Like, there must be a reason why you're asking. Can you tell me more about that? Or, there must be a reason why you told me X, right? Tell me more about that. Or can you explain a little bit more about that? You want the seller to clarify for you, because that'll unlock a lot of more motivational question like answers, to their reasonings. And then there's the what, how, and verb led questions that he talked about, where you want to have the seller basically sell you on how to close them, right, as an individual. In the sense of, reversing back. In the sense of, say, like, oh, that number just doesn't work. Or, I need more money. Or, oh, that's just not going to work, right? Whatever it may be. So you'd be like, well, what would I need to do to get you there? How do we come to an agreement today? Or, those things. Say we, come to an agreement. How would that look for you? What would need to happen? those kind of questions, right? Um, and if you feel something as you're on the appointment, you don't want to just bottle it up, right? You If you feel something, tell them, right, and they're gonna correct it, whether you're right or you're wrong, right? They're gonna affirm that you're right, or they're gonna correct you if you're not. So that was another nugget he put in there. Steve did. Um, and another thing he mentioned was, creating landmines and these artificial landmines for other investors, in the sense that you create landmines when sellers talk about realtors, or all, I need to talk to my realtor first. You set the landmine in the sense that, make sure, when you talk to that realtor, if they don't sell within 30 days, make sure they only get 1% of that, that commission. If they can't sell within 30 days, you better ask for only 1%. Um, or in the sense of another wholesaler, say, investor, hey, Mr. Seller, ask for $10,000 earnest money, proof of funds with their name uh, on it that actually proves they have the funds. You need to make sure that is happening for those next people that come look at your house, right? And, you know, or, I'm already here, and I'm looking to buy a house today. So if you want to give them a call, tell them not to, just tell them not to come. I can give them a call, tell them not to come, because I'm buying a house today. That's why I'm here. Of course, every appointment is different. Every seller, work it how you need to work it. And the last thing, um, two last things: SVIC, summarize, validate important commitment. So that's two, and then uncover objections now versus at the end of the close. So you summarize what everything was that you talked about. You validate everything they said. Listing why it's important. Get the commitment again, and any objections they have, you uncover them, take care of them there, versus at the end when you're trying to get them to sign, and then they say, I got to think about it, or I need time, or, oh, I got to talk to this person, or whatever, right? And then last thing is use off the record for a price. So they're playing hardball with you, just ask them, hey, off the record, what do you like? What would you want off the record? Fantastic, right? Good solid nuggets, right? Another. So then on Gary Vee, man, like, I took notes. Gary Vee. Couple things about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.